Welcome back to episode 2 of Everything Great About TUGS. Today's topic of discussion is mature themes. Now, you're probably expecting a review on episodes like Munitions and Ghost, and while those episodes are surely catch the attention of older crowds with their dramatic and impressive effects and shocking presentation, I want to talk more about the show as a whole. Let's begin. TUGS is unique for its delivery of well-meaning stories and plots that are beautifully crafted, especially scripts that are voiced and written very well. Its delivery is where its mature theme really comes from, though. Never once is even like the narration by Captain Star or the way the TUGS interact with each other with what the task at hand for the day is. It doesn't feel like a children's show. It's also, by the way the TUGS speak, by the way the characters interact with each other, it never really seems like juvenile. It's like listening to coworkers banter, which reminds me of more of like a soap opera than children's themes of learning and helping each other and life lessons about how to be a friend. Each character is never exactly a goody two-shoes either. Do you ever notice that like when most children's show characters, they always have a certain like straight line character personality where everything is juvenile in the way they speak, their nature, their ways of figuring things out? TUGS is never like that. Each character has good value points and they have flaws as well, which makes them a very round character and not a complete straight line. So let's talk about personality a little bit. Because TUGS only lasted for about 13 episodes, and there was a season 2 script written by David Mitton, if that ever comes to light, we may not know what exactly happens. But let's talk about the personalities. I think the strongest characters within this short series are Tencent, Top Hat, OJ, Zip, and Zebedee. So let's talk about their personalities. Let's start with Tencent. Being the youngest out of the Starfleet, he's voiced by an actual teenage actor named Simon Nash, who is now old enough to be my dad. But Tencent, despite being young and a bit of a wise ass to his fellow workers,
sunshine! Only good for day workers here.
Might brighten you up a bit, Top Hat.
I resent that.
Settled. He's still a hard worker and is willing to be a strong team player, even risking his life in Munitions when a fuel tanker catches fire.
Just after I started reversing, it blew to smithereens. Nearly took me with it. Lights went out, water in the engine.
But he's also susceptible to failure, though. He does his best to correct his mistakes and may appear a little bit ambitious and a little bit cocky sometimes, but he tries to make the best out of the situation despite his shortcomings. That's what makes him a really round character. Top Hat is that classic upperclassman, posh, snooty kind of character, emphasized greatly by the voice performance of John Baddeley. Despite being a bit of a snob, he's shown to have some humility, even if it's not shown very often. A lot of this is greatly emphasized in episodes like High Tide, where he saves a locomotive from plunging into the water. His interactions with Warrior are great too. Warrior being a strong but dim-witted character, often getting on Top Hat's nerves, Top Hat still cares for him and has no problem offering guidance or even support when trying to explain certain things to him.
Thinking strategically.
What's that then? What you said?
And that's what makes Top Hat a good character. He's not just this vain and arrogant, posh, snobbish character. He has plenty of humility and is shown to really care, despite it not being shown very often. I think we would have gotten a lot more out of Top Hat's softer side than what his personality gives off and his aura. It had this series been renewed for a season 2. When talking about OJ, probably the most well-respected by fans of the show, you'd be surprised as to what character flaws he might have. We could always play up the wise old grandfather-like character that he has. He's brilliantly voiced by the great character actor Timothy Bateson. But despite his wise nature, he can be pretty difficult as well, and that is his ego. While I believe a good work ethic is important and to not give up, especially if things don't always go your way, in the episodes Quarantine, we get a different side of OJ that seems a little reckless. How in all ways that some fans might be asking, how is OJ reckless? Well, in Quarantine, we see OJ suffering from engine problems, but still he pushes himself to go to work. While this is admirable, it could also be seen as reckless, because now you're doing more physical damage to yourself than good.
His engine didn't respond as he wanted it to, and he started to spin to starboard. His barge swung out and hit the ferry. No! The ferry boat started to list, water rushing into a gaping hole. My engine's jammed!
I think a good modern written story with these kinds of character traits, and even into a story where there's a flawed protagonist, is Hero in Thomas. Hero's a good character, a good representation of a modern written OJ. If you want a good explanation as to why Hero's kind of a flawed protagonist like OJ in these episodes, I recommend watching Unlucky Tug's review of Henry's Hero. Shows off the real round nature of two flawed protagonists. OJ suffering from the engine trouble and pushing himself to work does more physical harm to himself than good, and may mean he's out of action longer than expected because he decided to push himself. Things do go wrong in this episode, and he does save 10 cents for being quarantined at sea, but at the same time, he's also going to cost Captain Star a fortune in fixing him. He shouldn't have pushed himself to work that day. Now let's get into these two strongest members of the Z-Stack fleet. Starting with Zip. Zip is the young and impressionable character of the Z-Stacks. Comes off as the rookie trying to prove himself to his co-workers, but also comes off as not too bright and unexperienced. But he has some good in his heart in a few episodes, despite the stupidity and cheating ways to Zed's rival with the Stars. When Izzy Gomez tries to come into port in the episode Warrior without a tow, he hits a rock bank and begins to capsize. Out of all the Zeds, Zip is the first one to offer 10 cents some help in order to keep Izzy upright, only for Zug to hold him back out of some petty salvage scheme.
I'll give you a hand.
No, wait. It's your salvage 10 cents. You claim it all.
Look, never mind salvage. We need your help too. Come on.
You can't do it, 10 cents.
We've got to help. He can't manage.
Shown arguing with Zug, but again is shut down by Zug. If the series might have progressed, I feel like Zip might have become a member of the Starfleet in later episodes. Mainly due because he was just lacking that guidance, and the Zeds were not giving him that. Instead, they were just teaching him how to be, well, basically an idiotic, irresponsible wretch in a way. I honestly think we would have gotten a lot more out of Zip had this series progressed. This is probably my favorite character out of the whole series because of all the potential that was built up around him. Zebedee is one of the most bullish of these Z-Stacks, but is shown to having some compassion and understanding for his rival Stars. Up until the episode High Winds, he's shown to be a bully and even sometimes reckless member of the Zeds. He's a bit more quiet than a loudmouth like Zarin or Zug, and seems like the kind of guy who analyzes his environment very well. When the episode High Winds occurs, we see a more fearful and vulnerable side to Zebedee, him being extorted by the gangster Johnny Cuba. But we also see some good and some morality come out of him in this. Some fans could argue that he was only doing good things to keep him out of trouble with the law and try to save his own hide, that, oh, I'm a good guy, you know. Especially when you're being extorted and being threatened with your own mortality by Johnny Cuba. But the first time he helps 10 Cents and Sunshine was keeping Scuttlebutt Beat under control in the High Winds. He swallows his pride, of course, to do so, but nobody was forcing him to do so. He chose to help them out, even though they're supposed to be bitter rivals. The second time his good nature comes out is when the Starfleet are trying to keep an ocean liner in place, and he steps up to help, leaving Zoran surprised. Eventually, he does conquer his fear and takes a risk stopping Johnny Cuba from escaping. Such huge character growth in one episode, but it never seemed like the kid theme's sharing and caring juvenile message. It's presented in a way where, despite rivalries between the two tug fleets, there are times where they can come together and benefit to both of them, but also that, just because we're enemies doesn't mean I can't offer a hand in helping out. Benefits to both of us, really. A lot of these character traits and a lot of the writing that goes on in these episodes, I think that's where Tugs is held in such high regard despite its short-lived existence. It was a more mature, grounded version of what Thomas offered. The messages never seemed soft but came off as sincere. The banter between characters and interactions with their jobs seemed natural and genuine. Their characters truly jumped out of the screen and made them more relatable to an older audience. The only other show that was really comparable to it was Thomas, but where Thomas is treated as children's well-meaning storybook stories, Tugs is treated as a melodramatic soap opera. Certainly a unique environment for a TV show about sentient tugboats. Now, I could have focused on episodes like Ghost and Munitions. The problem is with those episodes is that they don't bring enough of the Tugs characters out. Sure, we see the Zeds and Stars working together in Musicians to stop a fire from spreading, but that's only due to a dire emergency. But we do see that 10 Cents is willing to take a risk to save others and stop something from exploding, that fuel tanker. Ghost is your classic thrills and chills play with tone Halloween episode, and ups the ante over some spooky themes in Thomas episodes, but again, it's not exactly great at character building. Where the stories, the voice lines, and where the characters shine the most is where they're pushed beyond the normal range and traits that they were originally given, as well as each voice line being delivered with a certain tone that seems more professional than kid-like. I think that's where I believe Tugs really shines as a mature program. It never really talks down to a young audience, and it definitely tries to target a bit more older crowds with its drama and its voice interactions and banter. Thank you all for watching. In episode 3 of Everything Great About Tugs, we will be discussing small details that may have gone unnoticed. Some Easter eggs, you might say, as the holiday of Easter is coming up now. So stay tuned for episode 3. I want to thank you all for watching episode 2. So far, writing for the series has been really good.